This figure really doesn't need an introduction. You know him from the worst Batman movie there is. And yes, out of the box, it looks like this. If this is what you like, then you can leave it just as is. Along with this crumbled plastic cape, you can display him proudly on the shelf, or leave him in the box and put him in a dark closet, and then when you die, somebody will sell it and enjoy it. They'll open it up. However, I'm gonna fix it. I don't like plastic capes. Let's look at the cape that should have come with this figure in the first place, because this is what we want to end up with. A cloth cape that actually brings out what the figure is truly about. A heroic Robin. Keep in mind that these are only ideas for you to use and implement in your future projects. You don't have to do any of this, but you do have to heat the figure to loosen the glue on the inner peg. And there is an inner peg that holds that neck onto the actual shoulders. You're gonna have to use a flathead screwdriver to remove it after you've heated the figure. Remember that this is very thin plastic, so be careful when removing it, especially the plastic that is around the neck collar. It is very, very thin plastic, and you can tear it if you are not careful. Now, once you've done that, then you can actually hold on to the cape, because you're going to use that plastic cape as a template for the neck hole cutout. So keep the plastic cape for the neck hole pattern. You'll see that in just a moment as we progress through the video. Now let's keep moving on to the making of the cape. Make sure you measure the height of your cape. You can use a graph like this or a ruler, whichever you're more comfortable with. And of course, then the width of the cape is going to depend on your liking. So that is going to be determined by how big of a cape you really want on this figure. I want it to go right over the shoulders, so it's going to be a half moon. Now, a rotary blade is going to be important for cutting a cape like this or anything similar to it, especially a new blade. It cuts like butter. So you're going to fold your material in half, and I am using pleather here. You can see I've folded it in half already, and I'm going to cut a semicircle, a quarter circle actually, because I've already folded it in half. When I unfold it, it'll be a half circle. And then what you've got to keep in mind is that there are any defects in the pleather, they will show. Even if you iron it out, those defects or folds will still be there. They will be minimized, but they will be visible. So make sure you choose a portion of the material that does not have those defects, and then you'll have a better looking cape. Now remember that the sharper the blade is, the easier it is going to be to cut. As you can see here, I don't have a brand new blade, so yes, it's giving me a little trouble to cut out those edges. You want to make as clean a cut as you possibly can. That way, when you join the two colors that you'll see in the end, you'll easily be able to trim them together to get a nice seamless approach. Be careful if you're using a new blade. It's obviously going to be sharp, and if you are not careful, yes, you can cut yourself. So be very careful, go very slowly as to how you're going to use that blade. Try cutting away from you if possible. If not, you can roll the blade back to make some of those tight cuts, and it's a little bit easier. But always roll the blade away from you. It's much safer. Now here's our half circle, and you can see that the bottom edge, which is, well, it's circular, actually we want to go and keep it a little bit more square, because as the sides come down, they will meet. Now we're going to take this double stick tape. It is actually an iron-on tape, and we're going to cut this double-sided iron-on tape to about a 1/16. We want to cut it to a very narrow edge, because we're going to glue our edge down and create our seam for our cape. So it's going to be only at the very top. This cape does not carry a wire. If you do want to carry a wire in it, you do need to have a larger seam so that the cape can leave space for that material. Now you're going to iron this to the top, and then you're going to iron the folded edge over once you peel away the backing, and that will give you your seam. So removing the backing and folding over the edge to iron it on. Make sure you do that carefully and slowly, because pleather does not iron as easy as cotton. You may need to use a second piece of material on top of that so that it doesn't stick to the iron. Now find the center and use the plastic cape that you kept to cut out that hole. You can use a paint marker to be able to visibly see it that much better. And then once you've actually marked it out, you can then proceed to cut it either with a pair of scissors or a sharp razor blade. And as you can see here, I used a paint pen to actually mark it out. And that is the center of my cape. If you go too far back away from the edge, you're going to have too much of a seam underneath that cowl. You want to keep it as close to that edge as possible so that that cowl can actually, or the neck collar, can come down over it and be able to be glued down. That way it looks like a seamless actual project that you've got. The cape itself takes a while to make. You may have to attempt it 2 or 3 times until you get it correct. So don't think that because you're looking at this video that's edited, it was the only one I made. So you're looking at maybe 2 or 3 attempts to get it correct. As you can see here, my marks on the edge of the cape, they do show. And that's why I chose a second piece of material to be able to recut and make a better cape. Now, if you want a cape like this, I can certainly make one for you. Leave your comments in the box below and I will get back to you. So here's our cape. There's our hole. It's cut out exactly for that neck peg. Make sure you test fit the actual cape before you glue it down or do anything else to it. You want to make sure that that collar sits down snug. If you want to glue it around the back of the collar, that's fine. It'll look for a tighter, neater appearance, but you don't need to. Just by pushing it down and keeping it down, you'll be able to create a good snug fit. Make sure you test fit that cape every single time after you make a change, a modification, an alteration, whatever it is you do. That way you know you're going in the right direction. If you see you're going in the wrong direction, either start over or try to remedy the situation. Most of the times you're going to have to start over, and that's why you need 2 or 3 practice capes. Now you should end up with something like this, a nice edge on the cape. Now you're going to glue the cape in place, yes, if you want to. You don't have to. I personally don't like the cape floating around, so just a little dab or dollop of glue around the edge, and then I'm going to glue the actual neck collar to this peg. You can use whatever glue you want, but I prefer to use a glue that when it dries clear. That's why I don't like super glue, unless you're using a gel glue. And if you're using a clamp, be careful not to mar the surface. Tape will not hold it down. You will have to clamp it. This is what it will look like without the wire. Let's take a look at the final results of the cape, with and without wire, and then with the actual inner color that's supposed to be inside the cape. And if you liked the video, leave a comment below. We'll see you next time.